Hello. The poem The Divine Image, written by poet William Blake, is a song of innocence. And like we all know, William Blake wrote both songs of innocence and songs of experience. So he's written a corresponding song of experience and he calls it a divine image. So today we shall be discussing the divine image and a divine image. In these poems, he has explored what is the nature of God and what is the nature of humanity. In the first poem, which is a song of innocence, he says that the form of God is mercy, is pity, peace and love, and so is the form of the human being. And then in the song of experience, he talks of something very opposite to this, very different from this, as we shall see when we discuss the song of experience. William Blake is a very important poet in the history of English poetry. He was one major influence on the poets William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who are responsible for the Romantic revival in English poetry. Let's discuss The Divine Image, the Song of Innocence by William Blake. The title, The Divine Image, largely means an image in our minds which has the aura of divinity. Divinity, something that we worship, someone that we look up to, a God, an almighty, a power in the cosmos through which all things come to be, all things exist, and the cycle of life goes on. So what is the image of this divinity? And very interestingly, the poet will not only talk of the image of the divinity, but also see that the image of the human being is a reflection of this divine image. Blake says, "To mercy, pity, peace and love all pray in their distress, and to these virtues of delight return their thankfulness." In the first line itself, he states what he feels are the characteristics of the God that we worship, of the God that we look up to, the God who we feel is the creator of the cosmos, the God Almighty who we feel is like a father unto all of us. So he says it's mercy when you're kind to the other people. It's pity when you can feel other people's pain and respond to it. It's peace when you do not want war or negative emotions or any kind of fight to disrupt the human existence or the nature around you. Then you are working with peace. And love. Love when you're filled with care and concern for all around you, when you're filled with joy to be with them, when you wish to celebrate your existence with them, that is love. So he feels these are the four qualities that we all pray to when we are in distress, and these are the virtues of delight. It is all happiness in this world is because we have these virtues of mercy, pity, peace, and love, and we thank them. We thank that we have these emotions inside of us, these virtues inside of us, by way of which we can be much better human beings, we can be much better subjects to the God that we worship. In the next stanza, he says, "For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God our Father dear." Now, very clearly, he says that if you were to ask me the definition of God, then I would say God is equal to mercy, pity, peace, and love. And mercy, pity, peace, and love is man, his child, and care. And that is also the image of man that God has created. So, not just that these four virtues are the definition of God, but man also is a reflection of the Godhead. This could also mean that when we allow mercy, pity, peace, and love to be within us, then when we create a God within us, when we create the concept of a God, the idea of a God within the human mind, then that God has to have these virtues, because these virtues are very high in our conception, are virtues that we truly respect, virtues that we want to espouse, virtues that we wish would characterize all humanity wherever it exists. So both the Godhead and his human being are images of each other, and this image has the character of mercy, pity, peace, and love. He goes on to say, "For mercy has a human heart, and pity a human face, and love the human form divine, and peace the human dress." The human form is love. Constantly we go out towards this nature, towards other human beings with a lot of love, with concern, with care, with joy, with an idea to celebrate life with them. And therefore, peace is the human dress, what cloaks us, what covers us is peace. And this is because within our hearts we have mercy, and our faces, it reflects that we care about other people's pain. We care about the fact that if someone is suffering, then we need to bring succor to them. We need to bring some sort of help to them so that they can overcome the problems, the struggles that they are facing, which are causing them this pain. So mercy is the human heart, pity the face, it is love, which is the human form, and peace is our dress. Then every man of every clime that prays in his distress prays to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, and peace. So in that sense, he's saying that perhaps when we pray to a God, we are actually praying to the divine human form. And this is his conception of the Godhead, that when human beings conceive a God, they conceive a God which has human-like traits. And since these virtues, these traits, they are so respectful, they are so wonderful, they deserve all our worship. I would think that when we worship these virtues, we are not just worshipping God, but we are worshipping the divine in the human being. We are worshipping the divinity which can come to exist in any human being in the world. So he says, then every man of every clime that prays in his distress when he's in trouble, when he's going through a bad phase in his life, when he prays, then he prays to the human form divine. He prays to something which has the character, the absolute status of divinity within the human being, and that is in the form of love, mercy, pity, and peace. And then he concludes by saying that all must love the human form, and all must love the human form in heathen, Turk, or Jew. Where mercy, love, and pity dwell, their God is dwelling too. Now he says a very important point to conclude the piece with, that this is the same God that lives in all of us. So it really shouldn't matter as to what religion a human being is following. He or she needs to be respected for the God that dwells inside them, because this God is the same God that lives in all of us. And he says, he uses three words, heathen, Turk, or Jew. Heathen means a person who does not belong to any of the famous religions of the world. Turk is a regional identity, someone of Turkish identity or someone of that region. And Jew, of course, is again a religion. So he says whatever the religion, whatever the religious identity, the regional identity, or whatever the beliefs, spiritual beliefs of a human being, he or she has the same God within their being. And therefore, you need to love the human form in whatever characteristics, in whatever identity you find them in. Therefore, it is a message of equality, it is a message of brotherhood, it is a message of secularism that he gives us in the last stanza. And he says that where mercy, love, and pity dwell, their God is dwelling too. So if peace is the cloak, the cloth that clothes us, and within that if we have mercy, love, and pity, then no matter whatever religion we follow, no matter wherever on earth we live, the same God lives inside of us as it lives in our brethren around the world. So this is the song of Innocence. I shall now discuss the song of Experience with you, which he entitles A Divine Image. The use of the article the and a, when he says the divine image, there is a finality to it. And he says this divine image is of the Godhead and of the human being who worships this Godhead. But when he says a divine image, he's talking of a characteristic that is particular, that perhaps is not something that he wants to take as a generality. He does not want to take it as something which should be the defining aspect of what we perceive. So I feel in the Song of Innocence he says the divine image, and in Songs of Experience he says a divine image. A very small difference, but that reflects what he must have been thinking when he gave the titles to these pieces. In A Divine Image, he speaks of a human being who perhaps is completely opposite from what we saw in the earlier piece. There is no mercy, there is no pity, there is no peace, there is no love. So he starts to say, cruelty has a human heart, and jealousy a human face, terror the human form divine, and secrecy the human dress. Songs of Experience were written by William Blake to speak of the reality of existence. He felt that Songs of Innocence expressed the romantic idea of humanity, the idealist idea, the ideal of what humanity should aspire to and should be. But Songs of Experience were what you generally perceive around you occurring. There is a realism to the songs of experience, as the title suggests. So here he says that perhaps our dress is not peace, but it's secrecy. Perhaps our form is not love, but it's terror. Perhaps our face does not have pity, but it shows jealousy. And perhaps our heart has cruelty inside of it. So there is a negative aspect to every human being. At the heart of it, we can be very cruel, and that cruelty expresses as jealousy on our faces, the fact that we are not happy with other people's happiness or with other people's successes or with other people's progress. And then this also expresses as terror. We have this insecurity around us, this almost this cloak of terror around us, that we constantly feel that we are in competition with everybody and everything in the world, and we are not able to do as much as we would want to succeed in this world. And therefore there is this sense of fear, the sense of terror, the sense of peacelessness. Earlier he had given the form of peace to humanity, but now he says it's terror. And finally, secrecy, the human dress. There is this secrecy about us. We are not as open as we should be. We hold our thoughts to ourselves, and we try and see that whatever information, whatever emotion, whatever knowledge is available to us, perhaps if we can keep it secret, then that can give us an advantage over other people. So he says that my experience tells me that human being has a cruel heart. There is a lot of jealousy in human beings. They have this notion of fear, of insecurity with which they address life, and they all want to be very secretive. They want to hold their cards close to their chest to get an advantage over the other human beings who they are in competition with. In the next stanza, he notches it up. He takes it one notch up in terms of the extremity that he's talking about. And here, the metaphor is of a furnace. A furnace, an ironsmith's furnace, where iron is being burnt to, or is being heated to a degree where iron melts, becomes malleable. So it's a furnace where perhaps iron tools are made, or where iron sheets are made, and the temperatures there are so high that they can melt iron. And he says, the human dress is forged iron, the human form a fiery forge, the human face a furnace shielded, the human heart its hungry gorge. So the human form, he said, was terror. There was insecurity all around. And he says this terror is because we all live like as if we are a furnace. जलती हुई भट्टी जिसमें लोहा भी पिघल जाए, as if we are this furnace in which everything just melts away. So this fear is what is melting us away. This fear is like the furnace. The heat inside that is produced is like it's produced in a furnace where iron can be melted. And he says that the heart has become a hungry gorge. No matter how much you feed these things to it, it's still very hungry. It still wants more. There is absolutely no depth to which you can fall, or a human being can fall, when they start to lose their bearings, when they start to lose all that is good about their character. There is no depth to which they cannot fall. They just keep falling lower and lower, and gorge is a valley. So the human heart is this valley which can take any amounts of degradation of the human being and its character. And he says the heart is this valley, the form is of a furnace. Our faces are like shielded, they are shielding jealousy, because he's called that the human face expresses this jealousy. It's a furnace sealed. So you can see behind that mask that there is something inside this human being which is making him or her very angry or very insecure. There is something burning inside him or her, and that burning is not in the positive sense. So in that sense, the face seems like a furnace which is sealed, as if it can erupt any moment, as if it can let out its flames or its heat any given moment in time. And the human dress is forged iron. He said in the preceding stanza that secrecy is the human dress, and now he says it's forged iron, which means that our dress is now cast iron. We have been cast in iron. So what he is representing here by this loaded metaphor is that human beings now have this lack of openness, total lack of openness. They do not want to connect to other human beings with love or with trust. There is a complete lack of trust, there is suspicion, there is fear, and each human being is a fort unto themselves, like forged iron. So there is a notion of even ego and arrogance to this, that we have become fort-like in our interactions with other people. We have become something which is cast in iron in that sense. We are no longer open. We are no longer soft and sensitive to feel the human emotions. And we also have a lot of ego, a lot of arrogance, and we hold it very dear to ourselves, the sense of identity. We do not want to give in very easily. So he says that not just secrecy, but the human dress has become forged iron. So we are actually furnaces who are burning inside with negative emotions inside of us. This negativity gives rise to fear, this negativity gives rise to jealousy, and this negativity also gives rise to secrecy, and it cuts us away from this pool of humanity, this community of humanity that we belong to, and therefore we end up being very cruel unto each other. We end up being not positive towards each other, not loving towards each other, but very, very cruel. So this is the song of experience that William Blake writes. If you have something to say to me, do comment in the comment box below. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and support the channel. Also, I would like to tell you that we have discussed another piece by William Blake. Again, both the Song of Innocence and the Song of Experience. The video is entitled Holy Thursday, and the link to this piece is in the description box below. You can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is @pratyancha.in. See you next time when I bring another video for you. Thank you.